Hello, dear friends. Today we return to the topic of international politics, and the United Nations, UN, is once again at the center of the discussion. What has the institution been doing lately? What are its main contemporary challenges? And what exactly are peacekeeping missions? Join us as we dive deep into these questions.
Before we jump in, here is a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering new challenges in security, the evolution of peacekeeping, inside the blue helmets, Brazil in peacekeeping, and finally, the Philippines steps up. Okay, let's get into it.
Section 1. New challenges in security. So to really understand the UN today, we have to understand how our global neighborhood has fundamentally changed. Imagine the Cold War era as this intense, decades-long standoff between the neighborhood's two most powerful families. Back then, the entire street was dominated by this bipolarity. The main goal? Just preventing a massive, catastrophic brawl from breaking out. It was all about state-centric security and the terrifying threat of nuclear weapons. But, when the Cold War ended in the early 1990s, that massive threat kind of faded into the background. And when the tension eased up, the community's focus naturally shifted. Instead of just trying to prevent a fight, we started looking at fixing our shared spaces, like the local parks or the drainage system, what we call the global commons in international relations. We also started paying a lot more attention to the individual families inside those houses. Suddenly, social issues, human rights, and the environment took center stage. This was a profound shift, and it completely transformed how the United Nations operates. That brings us to Section 2, the evolution of peacekeeping. As the neighborhood's needs changed, the way the community handled disputes had to evolve too. Tracing the timeline of UN operations up to 2026, you can see a very clear journey. It started way back in 1948 with the first mission in the Middle East. Back then, it was mostly just about observation. But as we rolled into the 1990s, that shift we just talked about meant the UN really had to step up its game. We saw a move toward multidimensional missions. Today, ensuring international stability isn't just about watching a borderline. It's about actively diving into really complex, overlapping crises to create a stable environment where peace can actually take root. Think about it like this. First-generation peacekeeping was basically a passive neighborhood watch. They were lightly armed observers just standing between arguing neighbors, making sure nobody threw a rock over the fence. Second-generation operations, though, they are totally different. This is a true communal effort. It's like when a neighbor's house gets damaged in a storm and the whole street comes together to help them rebuild the walls, fix the roof, and get their household back in order. These operations are multidimensional. They heavily involve rebuilding institutions, bringing in civilians, and fiercely protecting human rights. It's a much deeper, far more hands-on approach to securing peace.
Section 3. Inside the blue helmets.
So who exactly is doing all this heavy lifting on the ground? Well, the blue helmets are essentially the ultimate neighborhood volunteers. Now, there's a really common misconception that they're all just soldiers. Not true. The blue helmets encompass military troops for sure, but they also include police officers and highly trained civilian personnel. They step in where they're needed most, bringing a huge variety of skills to handle those complex, multidimensional tasks we just looked at. The scale of this commitment is honestly mind-blowing. We are talking about over 120,000 personnel deployed right now across 16 global missions. And they aren't just out there patrolling. They are empowering local communities, making sure fair elections can happen, strengthening government ministries, and physically protecting the most vulnerable people from violence. But here is the absolutely crucial takeaway from this whole explainer. The UN doesn't actually have its own standing army. Zero. It relies entirely on the volunteerism of troop-contributing nations. It's like a massive community potluck. The neighborhood only eats if everyone decides to bring a dish. Every single person out there in a blue helmet is a citizen of a member state that actively chose to step up. Section 4. Brazil in peacekeeping. Let's look at how this volunteerism works in practice. During the Cold War, the UN usually tried to keep things perfectly balanced by not using personnel from the big, permanent members of the Security Council. They didn't want the major powers dominating the peacekeeping space, right? But when the Cold War ended, we saw this massive structural shift. In 1991, the UNICOM mission became the first to actually include contingents from all 5 permanent members. That easing of tension sent a huge signal, and it sparked a wave of structural volunteerism all over the globe. Nations realized that to keep our global neighborhood safe, everybody had to pitch in. Countries like Brazil have played a massive role here, proving that middle powers and developing nations are absolutely critical in supplying the people and resources that make these peace missions possible. Section 5. The Philippines steps up. Now, another truly fantastic example of this dedicated community spirit comes from a nation that has literally been there since day one. From the very beginning in 1945, the Philippines helped lay the foundation of our international community as one of the 51 founding members. General Carlos P. Romulo famously called the UN Charter an achievement for all humanity, a covenant that protects us while liberating the human spirit. Over the decades, the Philippines has consistently championed vulnerable groups. They've been a powerful voice for the rights of migrants and children, they helped frame the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and they just never stopped pushing for inclusive social development. And they have always backed up those words with action. They were among the very first to respond to the UN's call during the Korean War. A decade later, their troops flew halfway across the world to help out in the Congo. In the 1990s, they deployed to Cambodia and East Timor, stepping up to help their neighbors in Southeast Asia rebuild after some truly devastating conflicts. Moving into the 2010s, Filipino peacekeepers played vital roles in places like the Golan Heights, Haiti, and Liberia. They were out there ensuring peaceful elections and protecting civilians. All told, they have sent nearly 15,000 troops to 21 different peacekeeping missions. That's a serious commitment to the neighborhood. Having already served 4 times as a non-permanent member on the Security Council, they continue to offer a steady, reliable hand. The Philippines really embraces its role as a bridge builder between worlds. They understand that true peace isn't just about stopping a fight. It's about creating a just order where every individual can flourish with dignity. Right now, as they seek a non-permanent seat for the 2027-2028 term, their ongoing commitment proves that shared endeavor, capability, and a deep, deep community spirit are the real keys to global security. So as we zoom back out to look at the whole picture today, the main takeaway is super clear. Even as our world dramatically changes, from the tense standoffs of the Cold War to the incredibly complex, overlapping crises we face today, the UN remains the common vessel steering humanity forward. Through the incredible dedication of the Blue Helmets and the unwavering volunteerism of nations big and small, the organization is always active. It's out there every single day, doing its absolute best to bring peace, rebuild broken fences, and truly unite our global neighborhood. And what about you? What importance would you give to UN peace missions? What did you know about how they work? What difference do they make in the world and among nations? Describe your current thoughts in the comments and share the video with anyone who might need it. Gratitude for the company. See you next time.